Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today's video is the second round of Rhiannon's Bookish bingo. Firstly, you might notice that I'm not actually in my normal little filming setup. My house is currently being decorated and so where I would normally film is a no-go zone right now. So I am currently in the spare bedroom where there will soon be some bookshelves behind me and I'm hoping that this will become my permanent setup after that. It is currently the second week of August, I believe, which is awful because I have not read a single book yet, mainly because I have started work again and I'm doing 30-odd hour weeks, and so when I get home I'm very tired and I just want to watch a film or continue on with the TV series or something like that. So I haven't been prioritising reading, and of course I haven't filmed the second round of Bookish bingo yet, so I couldn't really choose books to read without doing this, but I'm sitting down now to film it for you guys and I'm so excited to do that. If you don't know what Rhiannon's Bookish bingo is, I will leave a link above and below to my first ever video of my Bookish bingo, but it is essentially a TBR game where a bingo cage decides which books I will be reading throughout the month. Last month's TBR wasn't really that bad, however, I did not finish Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World and I did not finish The Explorer, which I am annoyed about because I did want to get both read because I feel like I am going to love them. However, contemporary is not my thing, and so when I started reading Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World, I just could not get into it and I wasn't making myself pick up the book. I didn't really want to at certain times because I do love fantasy and sitting down and reading a contemporary isn't normally what I want to do after a long day. And then The Explorer, I did actually download the audiobook for that, so I don't really have an excuse as to why I didn't listen to it. I think it was mainly because I didn't realise how far into the month we were, and by that point it was the reading rush which I was participating in, and then I just did not have the time to listen to that audiobook, which again I'm so annoyed at myself for. I should definitely be prioritising the Bookish bingo picks, but I'm giving myself the benefit of the doubt because that was only the first month, so it was a bit of a trial run. Hopefully this month goes a bit better. I'm not letting myself off that easily though, because if I don't complete a book that was chosen to me by the bingo cage, then I have to add another roll in the next round, which means I have 2 extra rolls this month, taking my TBR up from 5 books to 7. So without further ado, let's just get into the first roll. Number 28. And 28 is not on the bingo board. And so roll number 1 was number 28, and that prompt is to listen to an audiobook. I have the perfect book for this because it is one that I need to read as soon as possible, as I am participating in the Fellowship of the Read-Along hosted by Crier and Lucy. All the information for that read-along will be in my description box, so check that out if you're interested. But if you are keeping up with my weekly reading vlogs, you'll know that I did recently decide to participate in the read-along to read Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings epic. I have already read parts 1 and 2, which are the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers. So this month I want to get to the Return of the King, which is the conclusion actually, and I'm very excited to read this. What I've been doing with these books is I've been reading it physically but also listening to the audiobook at the same time, just because these books are very dense and they are very heavy on the information and the world building and all that jazz, because it is an epic high fantasy. One of the first ones, if not the first massive epic fantasy series, or rather one book because they were originally one massive book. If you don't know, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and franchise is my absolute favourite thing in this entire world. I cannot explain to you how much this whole world means to me. The films especially, because like I say, I'm only picking up these books now. I did read the Fellowship of the Ring a few years back, I think it was like 4 years back, but I couldn't appreciate it because I hadn't really read high fantasy before and it was very daunting just to go into one of the most dense and complex books. But these have gotten me through some awful times. They have been there for me through the best of times. They are just my happy place, and when I'm feeling down or when I want to lose myself in a different world, I will always divert to this one first. But I feel ashamed that I haven't completed the books yet, so it's only fitting that I put this on this month's TBR. If you don't know what this is about, we follow a hobbit called Frodo Baggins who lives in a place called the Shire in Middle-earth. If you've read The Hobbit, which is a sort of prequel to these books, or if you've watched the newly released films, you'll know that this massive journey starts with a different hobbit called Bilbo Baggins, who is Frodo Baggins' uncle. He comes into possession of the One Ring of Sauron, who is basically the force of evil in this land, and one day Bilbo decides that he wants to go on one final adventure, and so he leaves the Shire for good. In doing so, he gives the One Ring of Power to Frodo, who is completely unaware of what this ring is. Soon the wizard Gandalf the Grey figures out that this is the One Ring of Sauron, and so Frodo is tasked to take the ring to Rivendell, where there will be a council to decide what is to be done with the One Ring, because like I said, it is Sauron's ring, it's the One Ring of Evil, and if it falls into the wrong hands, it could lead to the destruction of Middle-earth. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil it. I feel like most people know what the books are about, but if you don't, I hope that intrigued you a little bit. I've absolutely loved the first two books, and I think the fact that I listened to the audiobooks definitely helped with that, because the ones I've been listening to are phenomenal. They are narrated by Rob Inglis, and he is just brilliant at narrating them. I also feel like it's a really accessible way to get into the series because it's narrated in such a fun way that you can follow along quite easily, and the fact that it's so slow and dense isn't as noticeable, so I would highly recommend the audiobooks. Honestly, I would just highly recommend that you pick up this series in any way, shape or form, because if I can push my love for The Lord of the Rings onto anyone, I will definitely do that. So yeah, please pick these up if you haven't. I am going to stop talking about it now because I feel like I've gone on about this for way too long, but the first book of Rhiannon's Bookish Bingo for August 2020 is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. Number 7. And 7 is not on the bingo board. Rule number 2 gave us the number 7, which is to read a big book. Why did I put that prompt on there? I do not know, but it has finally forced me to put this book on a TBR because I've been avoiding it like the plague for some reason, even though it's one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I have read all the books in the Shadowhunter universe so far except for this one and the Red Scrolls of Magic, and I just absolutely love them. I do need to reread the books soon, but it's a very long series full of companion novels and little extras, so it does take a while to get through these books, and I think that's why I've been putting it off, because I haven't read the Infernal Devices series for years, and this is a sort of sequel to that trilogy, and so we do follow characters from those books. This is definitely a big book. Big book for me is anything over 500 pages, and this edition is actually 591 pages. I'm not too sure what this is about, but I believe that it is about a young shadow hunter called Cordelia Carstairs who finds her way to the London Institute, where she meets James and Lucy Herondale. But Cordelia's new life is torn apart when demon attacks devastate London. And I'll just read what it says here. It says, trapped in the city, Cordelia and her friends discover that a dark legacy has gifted them with incredible powers, and a brutal choice will reveal the true cruel price of being a hero. So it sounds amazing. We're following the children of characters that we're familiar with, which should be a really good time, and I think the reason I've been putting it off is because there are so many characters in it that it's confusing to keep track of who is who and who is from what family and that sort of thing. I might go and watch some book talks of the Infernal Devices trilogy just to refresh my memory a bit, but I'm so glad that I am finally putting this on a TBR and that I can finally get to it this month, because I really need to, guys. Number 19, and 19 is not on the bingo board. Roll number 3 gave us number 19, and the prompt for that is actually to read a book from a Fairy Loot subscription box. If you don't know what Fairy Loot is, it is a UK-based company who has a monthly Bookish subscription box. I've only recently subscribed to them, but I love their choices so far, and I feel like this prompt is a good way for me to get to some of the books that I may not have prioritized. Saying that though, there was one book that came to mind straight away because again, it's one that I've been meaning to read since I got my hands on it, and that is Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. This book is just stunning, and I'm so glad that we got it in a Fairy Loot because it's one that I was highly anticipating, and now I have this stunning edition. In this book, our main character Elise is a bone crier, and they are basically a group of women who ferry the souls of the dead. However, the cost of fulfilling this sacred duty is that they have to kill their one true love. Our other main character, Bastian's father, was actually killed by a bone crier, and so he is intent on taking revenge. But his vengeance comes too late because Elise's ritual has already begun, and now their fates are entwined in life and in death. And again, I'll just read you a little bit of what it says on the inside of the dust jacket because I feel like it just sounds amazing. It says, "The first pulse-pounding novel in a new duology from the New York Times best-selling author of Burning Glass shines with doomed romance, macabre magic, and a betrayal with the power to shatter the boundary between the living and the dead." This sounds like it's going to be right up my street. I'm so intrigued. The book itself is just absolutely stunning, which, you know, shouldn't be an important factor. But to be honest, it just makes me want to pick it up even more. Number 38. And 38 is not on the bingo board. Roll number 4 gave us number 38, and that is to read a book with a plant on the cover. This can be any plant, it can be a tree, a leaf, a flower, anything like that. And for this one, I've gone for The Song of the Dryad by Natalie Lee. I hauled this in one of my earlier weekly reading vlogs because I actually found this for like £2 on Amazon, and it's a hardcover, and I did look on Book Depository and it was £20, which is crazy to me. So I picked it up, not really knowing anything about it, but look how stunning this cover is. It's got quite a bit of plants on the cover, so it definitely counts, and it is a short read, which is brilliant for a set TBR. In this, I believe the main character Charlotte has had a very bad encounter in some place called the Greenwood. Ever since, she goes on to pretend that fairies and magical beings don't exist. However, one day her mother is actually kidnapped by these fairies, and Charlotte sets out to save her mother. When Charlotte's search for a mum leads her to the fairy realm, she discovers that she is from a line of shrine keepers who are humans tasked with maintaining ancient fairy shrines. The fairies think that Charlotte's family have failed in their duty to protect the fairies and the shrines, and so she has no choice but to strike a deal with a Dryad, the very same Dryad who is responsible for her mother's disappearance. The Dryad gives Charlotte a month to complete the task of retrieving 5 stolen fairy stones and returning them to the fairy shrine, and if she doesn't return the stones in time, then the Dryad has threatened to imprison another one of Charlotte's loved ones. I feel like this is definitely going to be a hidden gem. It's one that I'd never heard of until it did pop up on my recommended section on Amazon, but I am very glad that I picked it up because it just sounds so intriguing, and honestly, I can't wait to dive into it. This might be one of my first reads of the month because I'm just so intrigued, and also I've just noticed that it does have little illustrations throughout. So there's one, we have some toadstools on the chapter headers, and I just feel like this is going to be a very quick read that will hopefully drag me right in. $51. And 51 is not on the bingo board. Roll 5 gave us number 51, and this is actually very similar to the last prompt. So the prompt for this one was to read a book with an element of nature in the title or on the cover, and for that one I've gone for The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This does indeed have rose petals on the cover, so it definitely counts, and this is also Chloe from Books with Chloe's Patreon book club pick of the month, and I'm just very excited to read it. So this book is set in New Orleans in the 1800s. I think it's 1872 or something like that. And it is actually a city that is ruled by the dead. Our main character, Celine, has fled her life in Paris and has moved to New Orleans, where she is quickly enraptured by this vibrant city, and she soon becomes embroiled in the city's underworld, and in particular a group in the underworld called La Cour des Lions. But when a body is found in this group's lair, Celine is forced to battle her attraction for the group's leader, Sebastien Saint-Germain, and suspicions about his own guilt alongside her own secrets. As more bodies are discovered, New Orleans is gripped by the terror of a serial killer on the loose, one who actually seems to have Celine in his sights. But when she decides to take matters into her own hands, she is in the middle of an age-long feud between the darkest creatures of the night, where the price of this forbidden love is her life. So it is a vampire story, which I'm so excited to read about. I love mythical creatures, and so I'm very excited to see what this book is like. One of my favourite films is actually The Lost Boys, which is quite an old film about vampires, and it just gets me every time. I just absolutely love it, and I hope it'll be the same with this book because it just sounds amazing, and I really do hope that I enjoy it. So those are the 5 books that would have been on my TBR. However, because I didn't finish off the 2 books from last month, we are carrying those 2 rolls over, and I need to roll another 2 times. So let's just get into roll number 6. (21). And 21 is not on the bingo board. For roll number 6, we got number 21, which is Pet Pick. I was so excited for this prompt to come up. However, my cat has been very ill the past few weeks, and I did recently take her to the vet. She's doing okay, but she's not in the best state at the minute. She has had some bloods taken and she is on some tablets, so I don't really want to try and film with her at the minute. I will do eventually, but I feel like I'm gonna include the clip in one of my weekly reading vlogs. And if she's still poorly, I might just do a poll on Twitter instead for this round. I am really sorry. I would love to show you my cat. I absolutely love her to pieces, but I want to keep her as healthy as possible right now, and that means not shoving a camera up in her face when she's trying to sleep. So the books I was thinking of making Tuts choose between were Mythos by Stephen Fry and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Again, these are 2 books that I've had on my TBR for so long. This one especially, I've had this for about 5-6 years, so I definitely need to get to these. This one has an audiobook, so it might be more manageable for this month, but this one is very short, so I don't know which one to choose. Luckily though, I don't have to make the decision. Hopefully my cat will be up to making that decision in a few days for me, but until then, I've yet to decide which one I'm going to read. And for roll number 7, we have number 57. And oh my goodness, 57 is on the bingo board, and so we can finally cross off a number. It's not very clear, but I have coloured it in with a purple highlighter. But honestly guys, I was so scared that we weren't going to cross off any of these numbers again this month. So I'm very glad that we've finally gotten off the mark and we've managed to cross off our first number. Roll number 7 gave us number 57, which is Big Book. Big Book has come up twice this month, which means I have to spin the cage again this month, and therefore I will have 8 prompts, which I'm now very nervous about. For this prompt though, I have chosen to go with Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. If you've seen my mid-year book freakout tag, again I will link it up above. I recently read Furyborn. I read it in January of this year, and I still haven't gotten around to the sequel, which I don't know why, because I adored the first one so much. I flew through it in about 2-3 days. I just could not put it down, and I've been meaning to pick this one up ever since, and I just haven't, which is a common theme on this channel apparently. However, the 3rd book in this trilogy is coming out in November, I believe, and so I really wanted to read this before that one came out so that I could just jump into that one straight away. This is 594 pages, so like Chain of Gold, it is almost 600 pages. I mean, I love big books, but when I've got a set TBR where I have to read 8 books, it's kind of scary. The first book, Furyborn, follows Queen Rhiannon, and when she was a child, she actually saved the Crown Prince of the Kingdom from assassins, but In doing so, she revealed that she had a few magical abilities, and so she is actually put through some trials to determine if she is one of the prophesied queens. So in this kingdom, there is a prophecy that there will be two queens, one of blood and one of light. The blood queen will bring destruction to the land, and the sun queen will save the land. And so Rhiannon gets put into these trials that could potentially kill her if she doesn't have the magic to save herself and complete them. Fast forward 1,000 years and we follow Eliana, who is a bit of a rebel. All she wants is to protect her family. However, one day the soldiers of the Empire are looking for her and she decides to escape. This sets in motion a whole chain of events where she finds out the truth about the Empire and who she really is. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil it, but trust me, even though the synopsis sounds a bit crazy, it is an amazing book and I would highly recommend you read it if you enjoy fantasy or anything like that. Fury Reborn does have quite a bit of mixed reviews. I understand why, because there are some elements of it that aren't the best, but the enjoyment factor of it was just exactly what I needed at the time, and so it was a really good book for me. Everyone does also say that this book is so much better than the first one, and I think I've just been very scared to pick it up because I don't want these characters to suffer. I want them to all live happily ever after, which is of course not gonna happen. It's finally time to get to the second book, and then I won't have too long to wait for the conclusion of this trilogy. And the last roll is number 46. And 46 is actually on the bingo board. And so we do now have 57 and 46 crossed off. I'm not fussy about the way the lines go, so it can either go across or down. So if we do get more in this, that would be great. But I'm honestly just glad that we have some filled in for now, because last month we didn't have any and I was kind of panicking that it was going to take too long, but we're off the mark and I'm excited to see if we can cross off any more next month. Finally, we have the last roll, and that was number 46, and the prompt for that was to read a book featuring travel or a journey of some sorts. You guys are going to think I'm absolutely crazy for putting this on my TBR, and honestly I think I am too, but that is The Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. If you don't know, I did recently read the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb for Elder Ling-Along, which is a read-along for the Catch-Up Book Club hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books. Again, the information for that and the appropriate links will be listed down below, so please check that out if you haven't. But having completed the first trilogy, we are now diving into the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderling series, which is the Live Ship Traders. This one is 880 pages. What am I doing to myself? Honestly guys, I'm absolutely crazy for doing this. But since finishing the Farseer trilogy, I have just been staring at this book and I've been anticipating it so much. And even though I do have a few books that could have worked for this prompt, I just could not say no to this, because next month I might not get the chance to read it and I really do want to get to it soon, because I've just fallen in love with Robin Hobb's writing and her world building, and especially the characters in the Farseer trilogy. They fast became some of my favourites and I'm excited to see what this one brings. I honestly don't have any idea what this book is about, so I'm just gonna read the synopsis, which I'm very sorry about if you don't like that, but I don't know what I'm talking about and I don't want to give you any false information about the book, so I feel like that is the best way for me to put it across to you guys. So it says here, Wizard wood, the most precious commodity in the world, comes only from the Rain Wilds. But only a live ship can negotiate the perilous waters of the Rain Wild River, and live ships are hard to come by. They quicken only when 3 family members from successive generations have died upon their deck. The live ship Vivacia is about to undergo her quickening. Althea Vestrit waits for the ship that she loves more than anything in the world to awaken. But her dreams of taking her father's place at Vivacia's helm is not to be, for her family have other plans. And the dark, charming pirate Kennet also lusts after such a ship. He well knows the power of Wizardwood and has plans of his own. So I definitely feel like this is going to be set on the sea, which I love. I'm so into pirate books right now and I wish there were more of them. Again, it's not a plot that tells you an incredible amount about the book, but honestly, I just want to dive into it and experience it for myself, because that's how I started The Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book in the Farseer trilogy, and I immediately fell in love, and I definitely hope that that is the case with this one. So these are the books that I will definitely be reading in August, which I'm stressing about because, like I said, We're already into the second week and I haven't read a single book. Don't forget, we do also have the choice for pet pick, which I will either include in a weekly vlog or I will post a poll on Twitter or something like that. So we have quite a bit of reading to get done. But that is it for today's video, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button as well as the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you so much for watching. It truly does mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!